Test. Let's see if it works this time. Yo, that was so funny because my kids be coming in here messing with my stuff, trying to imitate me and stuff. Yeah, there we go. I can hear myself. Yo, that was so funny. I ain't gonna lie, because I came in here the other day. Both my son and my daughter sitting in here. My son in here saying 1, 2, 3, 4. My daughter over there singing. Yo, it'd be tripping me out. But anyway, I'm going to. That was funny. So this right here, the Rig Veda. This is what I'm gonna be going over. Okay. Um, I was already doing it, but you know what I'm saying. Redo it. It's good. Good looking out, little vibe. Yeah, you gotta check out his music, yo. I'm gonna be playing his music a lot more. This one was just out of the rim, but check this out. These are all the tabs that I'll be going over. Let me go ahead and load that video again, that 2-minute video, because I don't know if it was uh if it came through the first time. So what I do is I use AI for a lot of things because I don't have enough time, money, and sources to sit out here and put out the best quality. I can just give you what I've actually read for the book, but I like to give a little visual aids. So what I like to do is I like to go through ChatGPT and stuff like that, or these other programs like Midjourney and stuff, and I'll type in what I understand from this book and what I visualize in my head, and sometimes they'll recreate it. I give it little prompts. I'm not an artist, so I can't draw it. So this is the next best thing for me to use, basically. So here's the video. First, I got to do my introduction. You know what I'm saying? But this is what I did.
The Rig Veda is an important book. It is a collection of ancient hymns. These hymns are written in a very old language called Vedic Sanskrit. The Rig Veda is the oldest of the 4 Vedas. The Vedas are sacred texts in Hinduism. They are very important to Hindus. The Rig Veda is a special book. It tells us about the beliefs and practices of ancient Indians. It gives us a glimpse into their lives. The hymns in the Rig Veda are full of wisdom. The Rig Veda is divided into 10 parts. These parts are called mandalas. Each mandala has many hymns. There are over 1,000 hymns in total. These hymns are called suktas. Each sukta has many verses. There are about 10,600 verses in total. Nobody knows exactly when the Rig Veda was written. Scholars believe it was written a very long time ago. They think it was written between 1500 and 1000 BCE. This makes the Rig Veda one of the oldest religious texts in the world. The hymns in the Rig Veda are about many things. They are about the gods and goddesses of the Vedic period. They are about the rituals and ceremonies of that time. They are about the beliefs and values of the people. The Rig Veda tells us that the people of that time were pastoral. They were farmers and herders. They lived in villages. They worshipped many gods. Some of the important gods were Indra, Agni, and Surya. The Rig Veda was not always a written book. For many centuries, it was passed down orally. People memorized the hymns and recited them to their children. This is called the oral tradition. Even today, the Rig Veda is recited in Hindu ceremonies. It is also studied by scholars all over the world. The Rig Veda is an important part of Indian culture and heritage. It is a treasure trove of wisdom and knowledge.
All right, what's up? So we back. So what I like to do is whenever I read these books, I like to read them front to back. I don't go straight to chapters. I like to read the contents, the titles. I like to read everything before they get to the good stuff. And in this book, from translated by Wendy Doniger, in the introduction, this is what it says. It says, what does it mean? It means what it says. This is a book of questions, not a book of answers. And to paraphrase Gertrude Stein, what is the question? Must always be our starting point and often our finishing point as well. Now, every time I get into a discussion with somebody, they always get mad because I ask them questions. Well, This is where I get it from. Well, one of the places I should say. Um, that was actually the very first tab that I did. So let me okay, so here we go. The next tab I tabbed up was is titled "To All the Gods." Not one of you gods is small, not one a little child. All of you are truly great. Therefore, you are worthy of praise and of sacrifice. You 33 gods of Manu, arrogant and powerful. Help us and speak for us. Do not lead us into the distance far away from the path of our father Manu. You gods who are all here and who belong to all men, give far reaching shelter to us and to our cows and horses. Now, I only mark that up because that gives me the idea that there are many gods, right? So I know in the video that I put in there that the Hinduism is considered the oldest religious text, which a lot of people do argue that, but Zoroastrianism is actually, well, some people say is actually older, and I'll get into that in another time and bring up Hinduism later, but it's just something that I just want to throw out there. The Rig Veda refers glancingly to many different theories of creation. The several of these regard creation as the result, often apparently a mere byproduct of a cosmic battle, such as those mentioned in the hymns to Indra, or as a result of the apparently unmotivated act of separating heaven and earth, an act attributed to several different gods. Now, that doesn't sound anything different to me than um, the Enuma Elish, right, with Marduk and Tiamat. So, um, just something to think about. You can have, it says right here, too many different theories of creation. So just in the Rig Veda you have different ones. Here we go. This is the creation hymn. There was neither non-existence nor existence, then there was neither the realm of space nor the sky which is beyond. What stirred, where, and whose protection? Was there water bottomlessly deep? And that's how it's read. Now, what's interesting is that what stirred has a one above. I can't remember what they call it, but I think that's called footnotes or something like that. But then, of course, I got to go to the back or the next page or the bottom in some cases, and I can go to the notes section where it will have the number one on there. And it says the verb is often used to describe the motion of breath. So when it says right here, there was neither non-existence nor existence, then there was neither of the realm of space nor the sky which is beyond what stirred. Okay, so what stirred is the motion of breath, is the description of motion of breath. And this verse implies that the action precedes the actor. So this what remember in the Holy Bible, most people know, God gave man breath, or breath breathed in his breathed through his nostrils or mouth or whatever, just gave him a spirit, like his spirit. The breath was the significant factor of bringing man to life. And it's no different than what's right here. The next one I tabbed up was the unknown God, the golden embryo. This creation hymn poses questions about an unnamed God whose Max Muller first dubbed Deus Ignatus, later tradition beginning with the subsequent appending of the final verse of this hymn, a verse that ends with a phrase and used to conclude many other Rig Veda hymns identified this God with Prajapati and made the question in the refrain, who, into an answer. Who is Ka? And this is what it is. Ka in parentheses is the name of the creator, a name explicitly said in later texts to have been given to Prajapati by Indra, as agnostics are sometimes accused of praying to whom it may concern. So I marked that up because of Ka, but I do want to do something because one thing that I want to look up is I have the New Jerusalem Bible here, and I think this is a really good Bible. A lot of people agree with me, but I want to look up, because I don't know the verse offhand. Talks about God giving Adam breath. So let me see. I just want to verify this because I want to do some comparative studying in my own my own video, just to show you how some things can be related. So I think, let me see. Man, I don't have my glasses. I know it's going to be 2:7. Okay, yeah, here we go. Man, I should have brought my glasses. Okay, here we go. 2:7. Okay, Yahweh, God shaped man from the soil of the ground and blew the breath of life into his nostrils, and man became a living being. It's according to, no, you're not going to see it because it's really small print, but I'm just going to show you New Jerusalem Bible, so that way nobody can just take my word for it. I'll show you where I got my information from, and it's Genesis 2:7. So that's why I feel like I can understand where people get the idea and similarities between what's written in the Holy Bible and what's written in Hinduism, in the Rig Veda, I'm sorry. So yeah, there you go. Knowledge is power. Always got to spread the facts. That's why I like to have my Bible. I have the New Jerusalem Bible right here next to me. And then I have these series, but this is the one that I keep by my desk right here. That's good. And then, oh yeah. Well, look at that manuscript. Yeah, getting ready to publish a book. But let's see. The next tab that I marked up was in the first age of the gods, existence was born from non-existence. After this, the quarters of the sky were born from her who crouched with legs spread. The earth was born from her who crouched with legs spread, and from the earth the quarters of the sky were born from Aditi. Daxa was born, and from Daxa Aditi was born. So that's something that I just found interesting. Like I said, going back to the Tiamat and Marduk, let's see the next one. Okay, death. This is what the Rig Veda talks about when we when it's describing death. Even as the Rig Veda speculates in various contrasting, even conflicting ways about the process of creation, so too there is much variation in the speculations about death. And in the questions asked about, hold on, let me read this again because this kind of confused me. Even as the Rig Veda speculates in various contrasting, even conflicting ways about the process of creation, so too there is much variation in the speculations about death. And in the questions asked about death, there is evidence of different rituals, cremation, burial, the latter also underlying the image of the house of clay in hymn to Varuna. Okay. Yeah, I think that just confused me because it said variation and speculations about death, and then the questions asked about death. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. All right, soma is the sacrificial drink pressed from the soma plant. It is the ambrosial food offered to the gods to make them immortal. That was interesting. Nothing really that I cared about. Just thought it was interesting. All right, the elements of sacrifice. So, of course, just like in any ancient text, there's always elements of sacrifice. So, in the Rig Veda, it has a whole good section of it. It gives you the origins of sacred speech and um well, that's not part of the elements of sacrifice, but literally right after that is the origins of sacred speech. So you got all these. Here you go at the royal consecration and the sacrificial priests. And I didn't mark any of these, but if you are interested in stuff like that, like even faith, and it says, with faith, the fire is kindled. With faith, the oblation is offered up. With speech, I testify to faith upon the head of happiness. And that's in the Rig Veda, right? I mean, what would you expect to be in the Rig Veda? Um, I got Agni as the herdsman or the cowherd. So that's a description of Agni. It has descriptions of horse sacrifices in here, and the hymn to the horses. Uh, you know, the sacrifice of the horse. So strikingly concrete in its detail. This hymn, the sacrifice of the horse, describes the ancient Indian horse sacrifice, beginning with the ceremonial procession of the horse, with the scapegoat leading to the actual slaughter. It then dwells upon the material instruments of sacrifice, which are to accompany the horse to heaven. So you can read about that. I thought this part was interesting because demons always come up. It says, all right, the demons, human enemies of the Aryans, rival priests, and godless people are all lumped together as suitable victims for the wrath of Agni. And it says Agni has many forms in different places: lightning, sacrificial fire, the human body. So that's more descriptions of Agni or Agni, or however you want to say the name. Soma, the Soma plant, is visualized in the Rig Veda as a god and as a liquid pressed by stones in wooden bowls and filtered through a woolen sieve. These processes are described in some detail and are the inspiration for rich cloth of imagery woven by the Vedic poet. So that's pretty interesting. Soma. I looked into it a little bit. Um, and here we go. I was actually about to just say this too, but I marked it because I remember sending this to somebody that asked about honey one time. So here, as elsewhere in the hymns to Soma, honey is not referenced to the product of bees or the Indo-European mead made from it, but refers to the essence and sweetness of the ambrosia. Inside the human body, the soma becomes boundless in the sense of producing a feeling of infinity expansion, a sensation characteristic of psychedelic drugs. But the word Aditi may also be taken as the proper name of the goddess Aditi. For Soma is called the youngest son of Aditi, and Aditi, I said that so many different ways, then a function of liberating from sin might be relevant here. Soma, Aditi's son, purifies from within the sacrifice, or Aditi's son purifies from within and pacifies the angry gods. So it's a psychedelic. All right. Long hair holds fire, holds the drug, holds sky and earth. Long hair reveals everything so that everyone can see the sun. Long hair declares the light. That's another thing. So this is the hymn of the long hair aesthetic. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Danu, Danu, is the mother of Vitra, Vrtra, and of the other demons called Danavas. Dasa is another name for the Vitra, and also in the sense of slave for other human and demonic enemies of Indra. The Panis are a group of such enemies said to have stolen and pent up the cows until Indra released them. Demon, man, the description of demons is, oh man, I'm gonna have to do a whole show on that by itself. The dark ones are the aboriginal enemies of the Aryans, or the dark forces of evil, illuminated by the rosy lights of the dawns. Maruts, priests in the verse. So how can somebody be an enemy if they're aboriginal? Man, come on, that don't even make any sense. You Gods of the storm. Closely associated with Indra in his capacity as god of the thunderstorm, the Maruts are also linked to Rudra. Okay, so gods of the storm. It is precisely the overlapping of their functions with those of Indra and underlies a series of hymns debating their several rights to the sacrificial offering. Okay. Gods of the storm. So look up the many different storm gods and boom, see which ones correlate with, guess what? The Rig Veda. Same thing with the solar gods. In the 19th century, Max Muller conceived and popularized the theory that all the gods of the Rig Veda were aspects of the sun. Now, I was just talking about that just the other day in the X space. Solar mythology has now been eclipsed, but it is certainly true that many of the Vedic gods have some connection with the sun, that many of the creation hymns involve the discovery of the sun, and that many of the closing benedictions include a plea that the worshiper may continue to see the sun. Vishnu is a particular solar god, and Agni and Soma have strong solar characteristics. Other gods are more vaguely solar, being described as shining or golden and dwelling in the sky. See, I was just talking about that. See, I don't say anything unless I've read it. Might mix up my words here and there. I'm not perfect, but I'll definitely go back to the book and tell you what it really says. The verb to cross is frequently applied to a transition from one period of time to another. Its primary meaning is to cross from one bank of a river to another, and here it may recall the epithet of full of waves, depicting night as a dangerous body of water that one must cross. Night is here regarded as a material mass painted with stars, or actually painting them herself. Her. Man, that's a lot of her. You gotta start paying attention. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let me go to the beginning. Okay, the 3 steps suggest many metaphorical levels. In the solar symbolism, they may have been drawn. Noon and sun, they may be dawn, noon, and sunset, or 3 phases of the year that Vishnu measures apart. These steps are called strides. The latter with many complex connotations that enlarge the metaphor. Its primary meaning is foot. It then designates step and footprint, as well as land or base in the sense of dwelling place. Wow, this is actually interesting. Later devotional Hinduism makes much of the fact that the lowest part of God is the highest part of the universe. In the final verses, Pada refers to both to the actual place where men and gods dwell, in the footstep which marks the spot or marks the place, in which the honey fountain springs as water fills the mark made by a cow's hoof. Wow. That's interesting. All right, the waters of life. It has a whole hymn about that. We don't even have to talk about how water is important for life. So I'm pretty sure there should be a couple of hymns about that. The Gambler's Lament. Now, this is interesting because I always talk about this. The Mahabharata, I already did a video on that that can be found on my YouTube. I found the Mahabharata interesting because I feel like it's nothing but about a dice game. Literally, wars and fighting started because of dice game, right? And when I read it, I was like, man, why am I reading the Mahabharata like this when all these people talk about all these other things? And I'm just like, it's literally about a dice game. Why doesn't anybody ever talk about it? So I thought I was crazy when I first read the Mahabharata. Then of course I bought the Rig Veda and I was reading it. And it's actually on page 219 of this book. And this is what helped me solidify and made me understand that what I was reading was actually nothing more but a dice game, right? And it says tradition regards dice as the divinity to which this hymn is addressed, for the dice are praised in it, though they are also reviled. This is a monologue in which a gambler wrestles with his compulsive attraction to the dice. First, the dice are born during a storm in which the brown nuts from which they are made cease to hang like pendant earrings from the nut tree and fall to be made into dice. When the gambler loses his money, his wife is first alienated and then mistreated. They touch her, pulling at her garments, hair, and etc., says the commentator, perhaps thinking of the famous scene in the Mahabharata where Draupadi, I'm not sure if I said that correctly, the wife of the brothers who have lost her at a dice at dice is abused. So this helped me say, okay, what I was thinking I wasn't crazy, because when I hear other people talk about the Mahabharata, they immediately go to how the Vimanas talk about their flying aircrafts. In the version of the Mahabharata that I have, when they talk about flying chariots or whatever Vimanas, whatever versions people want to talk about, it's like it's not supposed to be read like that, from what I understand. And like I said, I already did a version of this on the Mahabharata, so I don't need to go back and get into it. But just being able to go back to the Rig Veda and saying, okay, if I read the Mahabharata and I was thinking that it was nothing but a dice game, and I am getting confused because everybody's talking about like extraterrestrials and all these other crazy things that makes no sense that I've read in there, and it's really a dice game. I read the Rig Veda, and it helps me say, okay, yeah, it was about a dice game. It's about shame. It's about anger. It's about anger, rejection. It's about a lot of things in this. A whole lot of stuff was taken because of that dice game. So I just feel like it's just important. The soma plant that grows on Mount Mujavant is often said to prevent sleep. The dice, okay. The dice or his friends. Let me see. Number 2. Let's see. Okay, because the soma plant, it mentions the soma plant again, and that was number 1. And I think I just did that just for verification's sake. Okay, it talks about, has a section in here for women. It literally just says women too. That's all it says. It says the Rig Veda is a book by men about male concerns in a world dominated by men. One of these concerns is women, who appear throughout the hymns as objects, though seldom as subjects. Though Aditi is the only Vedic goddess of true stature, many female nouns, often abstractions, are personified as female divinities: dawn, night, the waters, and the forest. So too destruction makes a sinister appearance quite often. And the bitch, Sarama, assists Indra. Now, this is what I read. I'm just telling you what I read. Don't get mad at me. Oh, what's up, Got Sauce? Yeah, don't get mad at me. This is it literally says it's crazy. Though Aditi is the only Vedic goddess of true stature, many female nouns, often abstractions, are personified as female divinities. And the forest, or it says dawn, night, and the waters, and the forest. So too destruction makes a sinister appearance quite often, and the bitch, Sarama, assists Indra. I don't like people sitting here trying to say that I'm be lying. But that's what it say. So please don't chop my head off. Chop off the person that wrote the book. I'm just telling you what it says. I'm trying to tell y'all. That's all I do. Only got 2 more tabs, and this is it. All right. Okay. One of it is to protect the embryo. Let Agni, the killer of demons, unite with the prayer and expel from her, or from here, the one whose name is evil, who lies with disease upon your embryo, your womb. So this is just a hymn about embryos. And the last tab is the demons in hell. In banishing all evil spirits to a dark, holy place that may prefigure the post-Vedic hell of the demons, the poet also takes the opportunity to wish evils upon the head of his rival priest, a sorcerer, or who apparently accuses the author of the hymn of being a sorcerer. So that's it. That's the Rig Veda. Let's see what's the next book that I want to do. Let's see, because I'm about to close this down. Hey, if anybody want to do a space after this, I'll join in. Let's see. But I hope you guys learned something, because like I said, this reading these texts for what they are, man, it's not what I don't get the same sense from some people. That's why I like to read what I've learned, so that way there's no confusion. And then you could just take whatever I said and put it on whatever you want. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to do is called, and I'll be able to read this one. I can read this whole book if I want to, because this book is available to the public domain, but I actually bought a copy of it, of course. So I can read exactly word for word from front to back if I want to. And maybe I'll do it. But the next book that I'm going to get into is the Chaldean account of Genesis, containing the description of the creation, the fall of man, the deluge, the Tower of Babel, the times of patriarchs, and Nimrod, Babylonian Fables, Legends of the Gods by George Smith. So that's the next book that I'll be doing. I'm going to, of course, create a little quick AI video on it. You know what I'm saying? And go from there. And then after that, there's going to be a this is going to probably take a lot, because Godfrey Higgins has a lot. I'll get into that later. But next one is the Chaldean account. And I'll even give you some fun facts about Chaldea that I learned. But I'm about to shut this down. If you want to start another space, Sauce, if you want to, I'll join you real quick. Said this was about the Rig Veda. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was interesting. It helped me verify what I felt about the Mahabharata. I'll read the back of it real quick. The earliest of the 4 Hindu religious scriptures, known as the Vedas, and the first extensive composition to survive in any Indo-European language. The Rig Veda, 1200 to 900 BC, is a collection of over 1,000 individual Sanskrit hymns. 1,000. There's not 1,000 in this. A work of intricate beauty, it gives a unique insight into early Indian mythology, religion, and culture. The selection of 108 of the hymns chosen for their eloquence and wisdom focuses on the enduring themes of creation, sacrifice, death, women, the sacred plant, soma, and the gods. Inspirational and profound, it provides a fascinating introduction to one of the founding texts of Hindu scripture. An awesome and venerable ancient work of Vedic ritual, prayer, philosophy, legend, and faith. Wendy Doniger's translation conveys all the vitality and force of the original works. This edition includes an illuminating introduction, comprehensive notes on each hymn, appendixes, an updated bibliography, and a detailed index by Penguin Classics. But let's just not forget, that's not everything. A lot of this stuff is still is not even translated. So when people come up with these other so-called theories and stuff like that, they're just pulling things that they feel like should be in there. But like I do, and most people who don't do it, I provide you my source, where I read it from, the tabs that I found interesting, and how I found it correlating to similarities to other things that I've learned. Y'all take it easy. Rebirth of the Word book launching soon. And hey, knowledge is power.